It's immense pressure. Anyone who's not in events does not realize there's no more ultimate return on your investment measurement than sales. It is not just about party planning. I am not a party planner.
Hi, this is David Owen with Chesapeake Web, and welcome to this episode of the Real Producers Partners podcast. At Chesapeake Web, we work with organizations utilizing a variety of marketing techniques to help them promote their business. In each podcast episode, I talk with a Real Producers Partner to learn more about what they do and their business. Today, I'm joined by Kane, who is a senior event professional with a Real Producers team in, Severna Park, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Karen has been working with Real Producers for over 3 years. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you've been doing event management as well, right?
For them, I do that among other things, yes.
So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn under Karen Cantello O'Kane, so that's probably the best way to reach me. And I'm also part of the Chesapeake Real Producers magazine. So that's another entity. They have a public and a private facing entity that, features my information.
Okay. So how did you get into event planning?
Well, that's a good question. It was kind of natural, but a different kind of timeline how I got into it. When I was growing up, I was always the one who was planning different kind of events for my friends and different kind of theme parties. And at Halloween, I'd want to do different kinds of costumes. So the creativity was kind of always there. But as a youngster, I guess I never really knew that there could be a career in doing this. So then one of my first jobs as a media person at an advertising agency, I was reading a trade publication and it featured an article on a destination management company. And they also did theme parties as a part of what they did for different corporations that came into the Philadelphia area. At that time, I was living in Philadelphia. And so I just went ahead and sent in my resume cold, and they called me. And that was kind of it. I was blessed with wonderful women who mentored me, and they really set the foundation of what has been a long-standing career and a passion that I really, really love to do.
That's great. So how long ago was that?
Well, maybe too long ago that I want to say.
Much longer than 3 years. Correct?
I have well over 14 years of experience doing what I do.
Well, don't worry about age. I have over 40 years working in the IT industry.
Okay.
So don't worry about that. So what did those ladies teach you that you didn't already assume you knew?
Well, I would say more or less it was the foundation. It was working with clients and understanding client needs and understanding how to troubleshoot if a problem exists. And believe me, with events, there's always problems no matter how much planning that you do. There's always going to be something. So kind of thinking on your feet and understanding how to troubleshoot. I mean, I've always thought of my job as an event planner to do my due diligence, understand the objectives, but at the same time, if something happens on site, it's my job to take care of it and not let whoever my client is know that there was something happening. So there might have been this, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, the client might say, oh, it went off without a hitch. And my job is to make it appear that way.
Yeah. That's like the duck swimming on the pond. They're paddling like crazy, right?
Right.
So, that's interesting because I can only imagine the activities go on and the things that go bad at an event. People get sick, they drink too much, they party too much, and it's hard to keep focus, I would think, through an event. Am I correct in that assumption?
I mean, it is, but like other things that might happen is because while an event might be a networking event, it's also transpires to if you're doing a trade show and you shipped everything to show up and the shipment doesn't come.
Yeah.
I can't go find FedEx. So what am I going to do for that signage that I needed? Or
right.
it could be, let's say that the technology doesn't work. What do you do if you have a speaker going up there and your technology is failing? So it's immense pressure. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, more pressure than I think anyone who's not in events does not realize. But I think that is exactly what those early mentors taught me, how to react under pressure and how to forge along, and have your backup plans set to go.
Yeah. So, can you give an example? You were talking about technology. Do you have another example that you think about when you are talking to prospects about an event, to suggest that they think about how to mitigate in the event that they happen? We're using the word event a lot. Or I am.
I mean, I think like most of what I have worked on, like in my early career, it was with I was on the client end, and then my job moved more into a corporate entity, although I still thought of those people within my corporation as my clients, because that's how I was taught to treat everybody, as if I'm providing a service essentially. Right. But what I personally, my philosophy is that you start off with objectives in a collaborative atmosphere. So I don't just say, let's just say Mr. Smith wanted to do an event because he thinks it's going to be a good event. Because I do have a marketing background too, like I start to ask questions. Well, why? Who's going to the event?
Yeah.
Who are the competitors going to the event? Why do you think this is a good event? What are the outcomes you want from this event? What are the measurable results that we could say was a success from this event? And so I just think it's a collaborative effort. An event is never a one-person thing. Whether you're relying on other resources to execute, but also from a team effort. It's always a collaborative event or entity. So to answer your question, I think once you have those set objectives, then you've ultimately set some standards of what will roll out. I mean, in my opinion, it's the easy part to check off the boxes. I got the room. I hired the food people. I got the transportation there. To me, what is most challenging is to create a memorable experience that is different from the others. Measure that experience, because it's hard to measure an experience sometimes when it's just about heightening a brand. And at the end of the day, how are we going to make those attendees feel like they were special and that they had a true exceptional experience? Because those are the kinds of, I guess, events that are going to, in my opinion, bring your customers back. If they made connections there, if it fostered that kind of atmosphere, and therefore will bring them back, maybe not that day, but in the future, because it's all, to me, building blocks to making those relationships in the business community.
So how far out, I'm curious, how far out do you start promoting an event?
That totally depends on the event. Totally on the industry, on the event, and on the community. I mean, I've worked in many different communities. I've worked in the medical community. I've worked in the technology community. I've worked in the nonprofit community. I've worked in the food service community. And I can say that every single one is different because you have to know your audience. And that's where I think like expertise really comes into play, because you understand you have to know your audience, that there's not a general rule going in from industry to industry or even corporation to corporation, because every corporation has a different way of doing things. So the onus is on me and people like me to bring your expertise, but be open to understanding and learning what each community is like, whether that's in a business or a nonprofit or your own community, but understand what that is like so you can make those decisions. I can say in the community that I'm in right now, which is the real estate community, we start to advertise about 2 months ahead of time, but we really don't get people responding until probably 2 weeks ahead of time. Yeah. You have to keep pounding it in. But just think about yourself. Like even when you respond to things, I'll get to it. Like, no, it's never, I know it's there. I'll get to it. And that's pretty much how everyone thinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I operate about 3 weeks out on a day-to-day basis. So what got you into real estate?
Well, I will say it was a natural progression. Like I said before, I had worked in many other industries before, and I had met someone who had owned the real estate media publication that I currently work for, and I met her through a women's group. And so I just kind of started consulting with her, doing a consulting work on the side, which ultimately led into the position that I'm in now. So It was really a thirst for keeping my learning and growing going as I was working my other job. And that's what led to this community. All
right. Would you say that you are a salesperson?
It's funny you should say that, because while I don't consider myself a salesperson, I consider myself a service. I do believe there's a sales aspect to what I do, because there's a confidence that has to resonate, and there is a definite belief in what you're representing. And I feel that if you don't have that innate belief of what you're representing, then whatever you're planning is not going to resonate to the ability that it could.
Well, I've been in the sales game for almost 40 years, and a lot of the questions that you ask, I can imagine, are the same questions I ask. Because you have to understand what's going on. And a lot of people, I find, expect you to know their business. And you won't know it unless you ask questions about it.
Right.
And it's really a collaborative exercise. So
I mean, I would 100% agree. I think that that's why I mean, I like to believe that's why I've had this success that I've had throughout my career. I do believe that understanding objectives is a definite mindset that is necessary. And I often tell people, like when I start to approach an event, because sometimes the people know me because it might be, but sometimes the people might not know me. It depends on the scenario that I'm in. But I preface it by saying I'm going to ask a lot of questions because I need to have an understanding. Even when I was at Chick-fil-A and like the nonprofits all wanted to work with us, but so when I talked to a nonprofit, I could have just engaged them. But before I did that, I wanted to understand their purpose, what they did, why they did it. I wanted to understand how there could be an emotional connection. Like I wanted to understand that nonprofit, even though I was on like more what you consider the corporate side and not the client side, because that's, again, important to me to get the greatest success in what I was doing. It's marketing. And marketing and sales tie in together.
Yeah, they're very closely related. Mm-hmm. They're not the same, but they're very close.
Right.
And so how do you measure success? How do you actually figure out what the people thought?
Well, there's many ways that you can do that. And I think it depends on the tools that you have in place. So you can have technical tools in place. Like when we were at Chick-fil-A, let's say we did a promotion, we were going to do an event around selling more kale. I mean, I don't even know if you know they have sides of kale there, but it was something that people might not have known about. So maybe we do an event and a promotion around that. We can go into our technology and see how much kale sold that day versus on other days and in what time period. We could break it down to the time frame. Was it during the event? So there's different tools in place in certain ways that you can do that. I mean, I have worked with Salesforce before to measure things. I also think, an old-fashioned way is a tried and true way, which is just doing surveys of people who attended the event. I mean, you'd be surprised. People are honest, especially if it's anonymous. They're more honest, which is fine because to me, that's a growing opportunity and to even better, the next event that, might be for that organization.
Yeah, because I can imagine people that come to a big event that's multi-day, by the last day, all they want to do is leave. They don't want to take a survey. Mm-hmm, so how do you handle that? Do you do it after they get home, like an email survey or a snail mail survey, or how would you do that? Would you?
No, not snail mail. We do it electronically post event, and again we've done it with success, and again in different industries. And sometimes it is the old, if you don't have anything nice to say, they like to say it, and that's fine. But I will say a lot of times when we do this, you generate the question so it's easy, it's swift, but it gets you the answers that you want. And so it doesn't take them a lot of time to do it. And you kind of say that it's 5 questions. Multiple choice. You can write more if you want, but you kind of make it easy. And I think that's a pretty important part of getting a return on that.
Yeah, I would think so. Because you want to know if your effort was, you just don't want to assume it's correct. You would like to know if it's the right way of going about it, or have them tell you if it's the wrong way. You might learn more with that.
So, and then of course, there's no more ultimate, return on your investment measurement than sales, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if you go to a trade show and you're at a technology conference and you've done a week's worth of events and entertaining, and you had targets because you have your objectives before you get there.
Right. Sure.
And then you close that sale. Now that's relationship building, but that could be tied to that event.
Absolutely. I can remember going to many events that the people I met there, I still keep in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
So they are important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Can you think of one example of an event you were involved in that would be notable?
That would be notable?
Yeah.
That
you remember all the time.
There's several. I'm going to say the one that it probably a little bit more recent. Like there's many at KPMG that I love, and that I would love to talk about, but I could go on and on. But the one that is a little bit more recent that I think presented probably the greatest challenge, and this is probably one of the reasons that I'm so proud of it, was our Passport to Serve. And that was while I was at Chick-fil-A, and it was during the pandemic.
Okay.
And so this actually resulted as an event that we had set in place where we had we engaged like 40 different nonprofits. We had one day where we opened the public up to registration, and they could hop on a bus, and we took them to different sites that they could do service projects at for like 6 hours. And then we came back and, we gave them free Chick-fil-A for a year for engaging in service projects that we had pre-planned with these area nonprofits. And this was a resounding, popular event that we did on an annual basis. Then the pandemic hit, and I was challenged with, we want to keep doing it. How do we do this in a pandemic without doing it virtually?
Sure.
So that was my challenge, and that's a big challenge. So what we did is we kind of pivoted, we reimagined it, and we ended up, instead of putting those people on buses, we extended this to a month-long project where people got to sign up, and it was kind of like open-ended. We 400 to 500 people, and we sold out within like 3 hours. And basically, everyone picked up a packet. They had 40 different nonprofits that we pre-planned that they could choose from. And we had 3 different levels of projects that they could do, whether it was going to the nonprofit and helping them, whatever their needs were, which could be sorting, it could be yard work or whatever it might be. Or if they weren't comfortable doing anything in person, they could do a project at home. And again, we had all these projects listed because we had already engaged with these nonprofits for their needs. They could make no-sew blankets for children's organizations, or they could pack lunches for, a homeless shelter, or they could make dinner for their local firehouse. So these are things that they could do at home and then drop off, or they could just do a general drop off of needs. Could have been like there was one nonprofit who just only collected sweaters. So you could go through your house and collect sweaters you weren't using. There was a book nonprofit that sent books all around the world. Go collect books you didn't use. You could send it off there. So we had built a website with all of this information. And every time the people who signed up engaged with one of these, they got a stamp in their passports. It was designed like a passport. And then we challenged them to reach 15 projects completed out of the course of the month. And then we gave them free Chick-fil-A for a year. So it was really still engaging the community, still engaging the people who were really now engaging their families, because now everyone's home with the pandemic. So even the outreach was even more. And then also benefiting ultimately, which is what we wanted to do too, benefiting those nonprofits who were suffering because people were afraid to come out of their houses. And everybody was able to participate on the level that they were comfortable with during this time.
That's neat because, I only think of events as going to something. Mm-hmm. But this is not necessarily that. There's a broad spectrum of capabilities. and the
Absolutely.
things you do.
It is not just about party planning. I am not a party planner. I consider myself an event marketing professional.
Yeah. Well, it's more than party planning.
That is correct.
Much more.
But I can plan a good party.
Yeah, I bet you can. So what else would you like to share with the listeners and viewers?
I mean, I think the other part of what I would like to share is basically the last thing that I guess I really haven't mentioned and I kind of thought about this when you were talking about, the scope of what events can be defined as.
Right.
A lot of what I consider professional, expertise in what I do, but I also have a lot on my LinkedIn, as you mentioned, and my resume that I've done a lot that don't reflect on those. And one of those is 2 educational endowments that I created in my late brother's honor. And, you're probably asking, why are you bringing this up? And what does that have to do with events? Well, because this was my expertise and this is what I knew. For 10 years, we held a 5K to do fundraising. And that fundraising went into building up 2 different endowments that now are perpetually giving back to 2 different students in a scholarship format each year. Oh, wow. And it was through, I guess, my own passion, because it truly was a passion, that we did this with only 1 event a year. And then alongside that 5K, we ran a silent auction that grew and grew and grew every year. And my job was not just to run a 5K or get all of those, donations for the silent auction, but it was also think about like how you run like something like that with like no money, because you want everything to go towards that endowment. So It was also my job to figure out sponsorships and how to engage the community. I find in the nonprofit world and in this particular case that, again, you're putting your marketing mind at ease, but in a truly genuine way, is that you have to make an emotional connection. Yeah. Because if that first year in loss, when you lose someone, everyone's on board, everyone wants to be there, and then slowly everyone gets back to their own life. But how do you still engage that community for 10 more years? Because that was probably the greatest challenge that I had. And the way that I was able to achieve that was through writing an open letter every single year, giving kind of really exposing myself, but giving a personal insight of my relationship with my brother, or in my perspective, the relationship he had with his family, or different examples of his humor. But every year it had a different theme. Maybe it was a gift he gave me at Christmas and what that gift means to me today. Or one of them was about the night I found out that he died and the emotions that I went through. So, but that's how I engage people to care, because it was making that emotional connection that people can kind of align with you and feel that they want to give to that kind of cause. And it was a passion, but I think in a nonprofit world that is important. But in a corporate world, that emotional connection in a different way is just as important. Like, why do these clients want to come to the event? What makes it different? Why are they going to remember it? So it's still thinking along those lines of marketing when you're doing the event objectives.
Yeah. So I can imagine, I agree with you. People want to help after an event happens for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. They go back to their own life. and just keep going back to what they were doing before. And you have to remind them and bring them back in to the fold emotionally.
Right.
And I can imagine the challenge of doing that. So you scheduled that, you did that once a year, that letter? Is that how you did it?
Yes, I did that letter once a year because I did the event once a year. And while I dreaded doing that letter every year because it stirred up a lot of emotion for me,
Yeah.
I knew it was a necessary part of getting the audience there. So, and in the end, I always thought of this particular event as a tribute to my brother and a memorial to my brother.
Yeah.
And now it's, the goals have been achieved, and I'm invited to the scholarship award. So now I'm still a part of that legacy and watching students prosper from all of that time and effort that I put in, and a lot of volunteers that helped me along the way.
Wow. So are you still doing the 5K?
No, we achieved both endowments 2 years ago, but we even through the pandemic, we did it.
Wow.
I had actually set up a makeshift packet pickup right in front of my house for people to pick up their packets. And we had a great outpour of people. And then we have a Facebook group that's public facing. So people were posting themselves doing the 5K.
Yeah.
I had a particular day that we all tried to do it. And so people did post them, all around. And to be quite honest, the people who are not local were able to do it because all of a sudden, like, they were able to participate when they couldn't participate in the past. So it kind of opened up a whole nother avenue of people to do it.
So that's tremendous. I think I wouldn't have thought of that in our conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Because we're about at time.
Well, if we're at time, then there's so much more to share, but
we could go on for hours, right?
I'm sorry?
We could go on for hours.
I could go on for hours. As I said in the beginning, I'm passionate about it, what I do, but I think we've shared a lot of good examples here today, and I appreciate, I guess, the format because it's really been very natural.
Yeah, I try to make it that way. So let's once again remind everybody, if they want to chat with you, contact you, the best way to do that.
I would say the best way to do that is to go to my LinkedIn page, which is under Karen Cantello, CANTELLO, Kane, O''Kane. And that should come right up. And it has all of my information on there, including my phone number and an email. Okay, great. Well, thanks for your time today. I enjoyed talking with you, and I learned a lot. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. All right. We'll see you. Right. Bye-bye. Bye.